Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today by putting you in a specific place. It's a place I think we've all been. You're walking through a plant nursery. It's Saturday morning. It's humid. It smells like wet soil and fertilizer. You're scanning the rows, and suddenly something just pops.
The eye catcher.
Exactly. You see this stunning, vibrant red plant. It looks architectural. It looks premium. It honestly looks like the kind of thing you'd kill in a week because it's just too high maintenance. You walk over, dreading the price tag, you flip it over, and it says RM5.
Which, for our international listeners, is about $1 and change. Dirt cheap.
Right. And usually when I see cheap at a nursery, my first thought is something is wrong with it, or it's a weed. But today, we're looking at a source that takes that exact moment, that specific glance at a price tag, and turns it into this masterclass on logic, biology, and systems engineering.
It's a really fun one today. We are breaking down a blog post titled Notes on Gardening, Part 797, The Affordable Elegance of Scarlet Sage.
Part 797.
Oh, we will definitely get to that number. The post is from a blogger named Ang, writing at qianmeng.org. It was posted very recently, February 4th, 2026. And while on the surface it's about a flower, the mission of this deep dive is actually about a mindset.
Because Ang isn't just a gardener.
No. He describes himself as an old software plumber.
I love that title, software plumber. It sounds so utilitarian.
It does. It implies someone who gets their hands dirty in the messy infrastructure of code. But what we're going to see is what happens when you take that brain, the brain that fixes leaks in data streams and worries about system architecture, and you drop it into a garden. You don't just get flowers, you get data.
So let's go back to that moment in the nursery. We're standing there with Ang. We're looking at this Scarlet Sage or Salvia splendens. We see the price tag, RM5. Most people see a bargain. What does the software plumber see?
He sees a data set. This is the first big takeaway, and it's a brilliant bit of detective work. He argues that the price isn't just a monetary figure, it's an economic signal that reveals biological traits.
Okay, connect those dots for me. How does money equal biology?
Well, it's the law of supply and demand applied to horticulture. If a commercial nursery can sell a plant for RM5 and still keep the lights on, what does that imply about the production process?
It means they didn't spend much money growing it.
Exactly. It implies the plant is low resource. It means it probably germinates very quickly, it grows fast, it's resistant to pests, it's robust. If this plant took 2 years to bloom or required a greenhouse with perfect humidity control, they couldn't possibly sell it for RM5.
So the low price is proof of its easiness.
Precisely. AIM calls it a hint of its trait. Before he even looks up the species name, he has deduced that this is a plant that wants to live. It's mass-producible. In software terms, it's a script that compiles instantly on any machine.
That is such a useful mental model. Instead of judging quality by price, you judge difficulty by price.
Right. Expensive often means fragile in the plant world, and cheap often means survivor.
So he's made this deduction. He's pretty sure it's a safe bet. But he doesn't just trust his gut. And this is where we see the timeline of this source really matter. It's 2026.
The modern tool set.
Yeah, if this were 2006, he'd buy it, go home, maybe check a reference book, or just sort of hope for the best. But Ang pulls out his phone right there in the aisle.
He uses AI for immediate identification. I immediately identified the plant on the spot through AI, he writes.
It seems like such a throwaway line, but it fundamentally changes the hobby, doesn't it?
It creates a tighter feedback loop. In engineering, you want to fail fast or succeed fast. You don't want to wait. By identifying it as Salvia splendens on the spot, he can verify his cheap equals easy hypothesis before he even walks to the register.
And he confirms the visuals, too. I want to paint the picture of this plant for you because it matters for the elegance part of the title.
Yeah.
We are talking about some boring shrub.
No, it's striking. He describes upright spikes. Structurally, it's very vertical.
And the flowers.
Densely packed, tubular flowers, vibrant red. But the key is the contrast. He notes specifically how that red just pops against the dark green foliage.
Which is a design principle. High contrast draws the eye.
Exactly. It's affordable elegance because the visual payoff, the ROI, if you will, is massive compared to the input cost. You spend $5 and you get a showstopper.
Okay, so he's bought the plant. Or actually, he hasn't just bought the plant. And this brings us to the core of this deep dive. We need to talk about the man behind the trowel, this software plumber persona.
This is where it gets fascinating, because if you read a normal gardening blog, it's usually very emotive. It's about the joy of growth or the peace of nature.
Getting your hands in the earth, that kind of thing.
Right. And Ang might feel that, but that's not how he writes. Look at the title again. Notes on Gardening, part 797.
7 and 97.
That number stops me in my tracks every time.
I mean, I have trouble committing to a weekly grocery list. This guy has nearly 800 updates just on his garden.
And that's just one branch of the repository. If we look at the sidebar of qianmeng.org, which gives us the context for who this guy is, it's just a wall of data.
Oh, I looked at this. It's incredibly eclectic.
He has notes on fish keeping, part 187, notes on Haskell programming, part 49.
Okay, we need to pause on Haskell. For the listeners who aren't in tech, what does that tell us about him?
Haskell is, well, it's not for the faint of heart. It's a functional programming language. It's deeply mathematical, very rigid about logic and types. It's the kind of language you use if you care about purity and correctness.
So he's a logic guy.
He is a systems guy. He also tracks dieting, meditation, home improvement, and my personal favorite, betta spawn logs.
Betta spawn logs. That sounds like a sci-fi novel.
It's him tracking the breeding events of his fighting fish. But do you see the pattern?
He tracks everything.
He treats his entire life as an operating system. The garden is a subsystem. The fish tank is a subsystem. His diet is a subsystem. And what do you do with systems? You log them. You monitor them. You debug them.
Debugging reality.
Essentially, if you don't write it down, if you don't have part 797, then you don't have data. You just have memories. And memories are unreliable. They're lossy compression. He wants the raw logs.
It's interesting because he calls himself a tinkerer with free and open source software, or flaw-s.
Yes.
I feel like tinkerer is a word we use for some just messing around in a shed. But here it feels more, I don't know, aggressive.
In the tech world, tinkering implies a need to understand the mechanism. A user uses the microwave. A tinkerer takes the back panel off to see the magnetron. Aang isn't just growing the Scarlet Sage. He's taking the back panel off nature to see how it works.
Which leads us perfectly into the next bit. The experiment.
Yep.
Because he didn't just dig a hole and drop the plant in.
No, that would be user behavior. He did his pre-deployment research. He found out Salvia splendens is a fast-growing perennial.
And the compile time.
10 to 12 weeks from seed to full bloom. He knows the cycle duration.
So he has his specs. What's the test?
He bought 2 specimens.
Why 2? Why not 1? Why not 10?
2 is the minimum viable number for A/B testing.
Explain that for the non-software crowd.
A/B testing is where you run 2 versions of something at the same time to see which performs better. In marketing, you might send 2 different emails. In gardening, Aang explicitly says he purchased 2 to evaluate their performance in 2 different areas of my garden.
So he's splitting the variables.
Exactly. If he buys 1 plant and it dies, what did he learn? Nothing. Maybe the plant was sick. Maybe the soil was bad. Maybe it got too much sun. It's a single point of failure.
But with 2.
With 2, planted in different spots, he gets comparative data. If plant A thrives in the shade and plant B dies in the sun, he has debugged the location requirement.
It's so logical, but so few casual gardeners do this. We usually just buy the plant we like, stick it where we think it looks good, and just hope.
Hope is not a strategy. Not for a software plumber. He relies on redundancy and testing.
And the end goal of this experiment is really cool, too. It's not just keep them alive.
No. His goal is to eventually harvest seeds and attempt propagation through cuttings.
He wants to copy the plant.
He wants to fork the repository.
Okay, I love this analogy. Break down forking for me.
In the open source world, which Aang lives in, if there's a piece of software you like, you can fork it. You take a copy of the source code, and now it's yours. You can develop it, change it, fix it. You aren't dependent on the original creator anymore.
So by harvesting seeds.
He is forking the genetics of the Salvia splendens. He is breaking the dependency on the nursery. If he succeeds, he never has to pay that RM5 again. He has his own local instance of the plant running on his own server, his garden.
That loops right back to affordable elegance. It's affordable now, but if the fork is successful, the cost drops to 0.
It becomes sustainable elegance, and that is the ultimate goal of the tinkerer.
Yes.
Self-sufficiency through understanding.
I want to zoom out a bit to the broader ecosystem here, because we've talked about the plant, the logs, but looking at that sidebar again, looking at the other things he's writing about in the same week, it paints a really specific picture of a learner persona.
It does. You know, you are defined by what you pay attention to, and Aang pays attention to everything.
In the same week, February 2026, what else is on his mind?
He's writing The Case for Red Tropical Water Lily. He's writing about urban wildlife, but he's also writing technical posts like refactoring.
Refactoring, that's cleaning up code, right?
Right, improving the internal structure without changing the external behavior. And I think he applies that to his life, too. He's constantly refactoring his habits, his garden layout, his fish tanks. It's all one big project.
And he supports the Electronic Frontier Foundation, the EFF, the Free Software Foundation, FSF, and Wikipedia.
The holy trinity of open knowledge.
This feels like the so what of the episode for me.
Yeah.
Why does a guy in Malaysia, I'm assuming Malaysia because of the RM currency.
Yes, ringgit implies Malaysia.
So why does a guy in Malaysia writing part 797 about a sage plant matter to us?
It matters because of the philosophy of open source living.
Open source living. I like that. What does that mean practically?
Well, most of us live in closed source lives. We have our little walled gardens. If I try to bake sourdough and I fail, I don't tell anyone, I just throw it away. If I succeed, maybe I post a photo on Instagram, but I don't post the recipe or, the failure log.
We hide the data.
We hide the data. Aang publishes the data. He uses Wikipedia to learn, but he contributes back by documenting his own experiments. He's saying, here is what I learned about Salvia splendens in a tropical climate. Here is the data. Do with it what you will.
Even if nobody reads it.
Even if nobody reads it today, it's indexed. It's there. It's a contribution to the global knowledge base. And honestly, it's a form of generosity.
It is. It's saying, my experience has value, not because I'm famous, but because it's true and it's documented.
And it proves that skills are transferable. That's the empowering part. The logic he uses to debug Haskell code is the same logic he uses to propagate cuttings. If you're a listener who feels pigeonholed, I'm just an accountant, or I'm just a parent, this challenges that. Your skills in one area can unlock mysteries in another.
The patience of the soil meeting the logic of the code.
Exactly. And let's just talk about that patience for a second. We mentioned the volume of posts. 2025 had 730 posts. 2024 had 732.
Wait, do the math on that.
That is exactly 2 posts per day, every single day, rain or shine.
That is slightly terrifying.
It's intense, but it's also beautiful. This is a person who shows up. It's a habit of observation that is incredibly rare.
We talk about mindfulness a lot. Usually it means sitting on a cushion and breathing.
Right. But this is active mindfulness. Writing a blog post about the specific growth habit of a 5 ringgit plant requires you to really look at the plant. You can't sleepwalk through your life if you have to write 2 reports on it every day.
That's a great point. The documentation forces the attention.
It forces you to see the details, the upright spikes, the tubular flowers, the RM5 price tag. You stop skimming over your reality.
So bringing this all back home for you listening, we've gone from a cheap plant in a nursery to this philosophy of open source living and radical documentation. What is the big takeaway here?
For me, it's that everything is data. The price tag is data. The leaf color is data. The failure of a plant in the shade is data. If you stop seeing your hobbies as just things you do and start seeing them as systems you manage, you can optimize them.
You can debug your own life.
You can. And you don't need to be a software engineer. You just need a notebook or a blog.
And the willingness to write part 1.
And then part 2, and keep going until you hit part 797.
It's the consistency that turns the anecdote into science.
Exactly. Aang didn't discover a new species. He just observed a common one with uncommon rigor. And that made it interesting.
There are no boring subjects.
Only boring ways of looking at them. If you look at a cheap red flower with enough curiosity, it becomes a genetics experiment.
I love that. So before we wrap up, I want to leave everyone with a challenge, a provocative thought, if you will.
Let's hear it.
We've spent the last, 15 minutes inside the head of this software plumber. He is tracking almost 800 data points on his garden. He's tracking his code, his fish, his diet. He has this massive personal database.
A life log.
Right. So here is the question for you listening right now. Think about your main hobby. Maybe it's cooking. Maybe it's running. Maybe it's knitting or playing video games.
Whatever you spend your time on.
If you started treating that hobby with the same rigorous documentation as Aang, if you treated it as a system to be logged and analyzed, what patterns would you discover that you are currently missing?
Oh, that's good. What bugs would you find in your process?
Exactly. Why does your sourdough fail every 4th time? Why does your knee hurt after 5K?
You're missing the data because you aren't writing it down.
You might find your own affordable elegance hiding in plain sight, just waiting for you to notice the pattern.
Or at the very least, you might realize you need to start buying 2 of everything for A/B testing.
That's an expensive lesson, but probably a valid one. Start small, buy 2 plants, write 1 node, see what happens.
And maybe, just maybe, publish it. because you never know who might need that data in 2026.
Thanks for diving in with us today. We'll see you next time.
Keep tinkering.